Before we get started, I have to make it known that I am a massive supporter of independent artists. I am. I love the indies. I love indie comics, indie novels, indie video games, and especially indie films. I think that independent cinema is an excellent avenue for an aspiring filmmaker or even an established voice to explore themes and experiment with unorthodox techniques that they wouldn't have the freedom to under the micromanaging corporate bean counters who run mainstream Hollywood studios. And these days, cinematic equipment is far more readily available than it's ever been, and with that availability and the aforementioned freedom afforded by independent filmmaking comes a certain caveat. This freedom and convenience means that literally anyone can make a movie, which is cool until you realize that for every good film, there's at least one or two dozen bad ones. For every Jeremy Saulnier or Zach Kreger or Robert Eggers, there's an Uwe Boll or a Dustin Ferguson or the subject of today's wedgie, Rene Perez. Now, Rene is somebody who I've talked about on this channel in the past, back when I was referring to this show as Kris Vents. He is a particularly frustrating individual, to say the least. The guy has directed 31 movies since his debut in 2010. According to his IMDb, he's got 2 movies in post-production and 1 in pre-production right now. And by his own admission, he's a director for hire. A producer tasks him with making a certain type of movie, he makes the movie, and it's on to the next project. His movies are typically written, shot, and edited within a span of 4 months apiece. That, to me, is not artistry. It's not true cinema. It's manufactured cinema. Movies assembled on a conveyor belt. And you can tell they were made this way because there's very little, if any, soul in them, and they all suffer from the exact same flaws. Now, on the surface, his movies often seem like they have the potential to be a solid B movie that makes up for in heart and entertainment value what it lacks in budgetary polish. Oh, here's this movie about a ninja assassin who works for John Schneider. Here's a dark fantasy Little Red Riding Hood. Here's a vigilante movie starring a Dollar Tree Charles Bronson. But then you sit down to watch the movie, expecting to see what the movie is promising, only for that awesomeness you were expecting to occupy less than 10 minutes of screen time, and the remainder of the movie being occupied by subplots that have little to no payoff, dialogue and performances that would be laughed out of a Midwestern junior high production of Shakespeare, little to no attempt at color grading, aggressive and repeated violations of show don't tell, and Perez literally stopping the movie dead in its tracks to get on a soapbox and lecture the audience like a Timu Limbaugh. I wish I could show you examples of this, but Perez has abused YouTube's busted copyright system against people who criticize him in the past. But let's take this month's episode of Bottom of the Bin, a 36-minute short film that Perez made in 2023 called They Want Us Woke, Not Awake. Yeah. That's the title. Barring the fact that that sounds like the title of a quartering video, the movie itself is a slog. The first half of it is primarily platitudes, following our main girl Sasha, first as she hikes through the Northern California wilderness and narrates the extent of her left-leaning upbringing. Nothing's shown. We're just told she was raised by a man-hating feminist and never grew up with a genuinely masculine male father figure in her life. Following 4 minutes of that, she's on this conservative live stream hosted by this guy named Mark, where we learn she's been ostracized from her family and community due to being anti-vaccine, and her son was taken away by the state because she didn't want his school teachers trying to convince him that he's transgender. Again, we are never shown any of this happening. And following this, and Mark hosting a left-leaning caller so she and Sasha can spew empty platitudes back and forth, the two are knocked unconscious by stun grenades and snatched out of Mark's studio while the show is still on the air. Unless I somehow missed any indication of the feed being cut before they were assaulted. Next thing we know, Sasha and Mark are chained up at this abandoned factory where a guy who looks like he's wearing some cheap knockoff equivalent to the power armor from Fallout is planning to sell their organs, and they've got to find a means to escape. Okay? Who kidnapped them? Why kidnap them? And why go to the extent of taking them in the middle of a live stream? Perez, either you, yourself, are completely inverted, or you think your audience is. There's no other explanation for it. Why am I raging about this? Because it never gets explained. I guess we're supposed to believe it was delibs, but again, never explained.
Just sorry.
And unless you're expecting high tension and a thrilling escape, you're going to be disappointed. The only tension you'll experience is fighting the urge to check the timeline so you can see how much time you've got left to watch this dumbass thing. And the only thrilling escape you'll find is in closing your browser window. Perhaps the biggest titty twister of this short is the fact that Perez released it on 2 different sites, and on one of them, he had the actual balls to lock it behind a paywall. You see, this movie is available through 2 venues. Through Perez's YouTube channel, The Darkest Machines, and through his proprietary streaming service, Rebellion Flix. Yes, you heard that correctly. Perez has a streaming service. You pay a one-time cover charge of $2.99 and get unlimited access to his movies. I guess the YouTube version is supposed to be equivalent to a theatrical cut, and the Rebellion Flix version is a director's cut, but as far as I can tell, the only difference between the two is that the director's cut contains more violence and at least one scene of nudity, because Perez is a grown man in his 40s who for some reason can't go one flick without having at least one scene where an actress has her knockers out. So yeah, if you like the idea of a movie that's half exploitation and half political platitudes from a guy with a 7th grader's understanding of politics, you might be compelled They Want Us Woke Not Awake, the old college try. As for me, if I feel the need to consume media about people being snatched up and forced into a life or death situation, I'll just either watch or read Battle Royale. With all that being said, folks, let me know what you think down in the comments below. Does this sound like something you'd want to watch or something you'd skip entirely? Do you have any obscure movie recommendations? Because I'd really love to hear from you guys, and if you want to see more movie reviews alongside riffings, gameplay videos, and bi-weekly live streams, subscribe to the channel. We're drawing close to 700 subs, and I just want to let you guys know I appreciate every single one of you. If you want to get early access to new videos or just want to help the channel out in a more personal way, consider becoming a member for just $1. If not, it's all good. Your views alone are more than enough to keep me going. Once again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. And if you're expecting high tension and a thrilling escape, motherfucker, get off.